Imagine being lost in space would be quite the adventure. But let's face it, it wouldn't be all sunshine and rainbows. Here's a glimpse of what could happen if you found yourself stranded in the vastness of the cosmos. First off, let's talk about the immediate issue at hand. Without a sustainable source of oxygen, you'd suffocate pretty quickly. And unless you're some kind of space magician who can magically conjure up air, you're in a bit of a pickle. Assuming you're on a spacecraft that's capable of sustaining life for a little while, you might be able to buy yourself some time. But eventually, you're going to run out of oxygen, and that's when things start to get really interesting. As your oxygen supply dwindles, you might start to experience some pretty wild hallucinations. You might see aliens, unicorns, or even your grandma's pet poodle. And while that might be entertaining at first, it's probably not going to do much to help you get back to Earth. Eventually, your oxygen supply will run out completely, and that's when things get really, really interesting. You'll start to feel lightheaded and dizzy, and you might even pass out. And when you wake up, you'll be in for a surprise. That's right, without oxygen, your body will go into hibernation mode, and you'll basically freeze to death. So if you ever find yourself lost in space, make sure you've got a warm coat on hand. And maybe some mittens, too. But let's say you're lucky enough to avoid the whole suffocation thing. You're still lost in space, and that's not exactly a fun place to be. You're completely alone, with nothing to do but stare out at the void of space. You might start to get a little bit stir-crazy after a while. You might talk to yourself, sing songs, or even dance a little jig. But eventually, you're going to run out of things to do, and that's when the real fun begins. You might start to see things that aren't really there. You might think you see a giant space dragon or a fleet of alien ships. And while that might be cool at first, it's probably not going to help you get back home. Eventually, you'll start to lose your grip on reality. You'll forget who you are, where you came from, and why you're even in space in the first place. You might start to talk to yourself in a strange language, or even start to believe that you're a banana. So what if you could be saved by a rescue team? It looks like you might just have a chance to escape the cold and lonely void of space. Let's see what happens when a rescue team shows up to save the day. First off, you might be feeling pretty grateful that someone has come to rescue you. You might even shed a tear or two of joy. But let's not forget, you've been floating around in space for a while now, and you're probably not looking your best. When the rescue team finally arrives, they might not recognize you at first. You might be covered in space dust, your hair might be standing on end, and your spacesuit might be looking a little worse from wear and tear. But don't worry, they'll still save you if you're lucky. Assuming the rescue team manages to get you safely aboard their ship, you might start to feel a little bit awkward. You've been alone for so long that you've forgotten how to interact with other human beings. You might start to babble nonsense, or even start to ask them about their favorite flavor of ice cream. But don't worry, the rescue team is probably used to dealing with weirdos like you. They might even start to find your rambling stories about space dragons and unicorns kind of entertaining. Hey, at least you're not boring, right? Once you've settled in with the rescue team, you might start to feel a little bit more human. You might take a shower, eat a good meal, and catch up on some sleep. But let's not forget, you've been floating around in space for a while now, and that's going to take a toll on your body. You might start to experience some strange side effects from your time in space. Your bones might be weaker, your muscles might be atrophied, and you might even have trouble walking. But hey, at least you're alive, right? Being rescued from space is probably one of the weirdest and most surreal experiences you'll ever have. You might be a little bit traumatized, a little bit delirious, and a little bit grateful. But most of all, you'll be glad to be back on solid ground, with your feet firmly planted on good old planet Earth. But in all honesty, it's most likely a wrap for you. You have a better chance of watching pigs fly. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you found it informative, entertaining, and funny. If you did, Please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the like button to support me and stay updated with my future content.